Okay, so the chapter we're going to read today is chapter 1, and it's called Learning to Embrace Your Inner Nigger. All right, if you have a problem with the N word, you better stop listening right now. Turn this video off because the context of this chapter, the word nigger is going to be used a lot. All right, so I'm just warning you ahead of time. So it takes place in Manhattan, New York, 1995. One of the first things a Negro had to learn in order to be successful as a daytime talk show producer was the art of compartmentalizing blackness and a natural disdain most had for being called nigger. This was especially true when a redneck or a member of the Ku Klux Klan called you one, go figure. Even though I may have appeared on the outside to be a Negro operating within the human milieu, you could say I was designed for television success. Simply put, I had no qualms or emotional empathy whatsoever when it came to exploiting human beings for the entertainment of others. That said, many of the Negroes I met who were trying to establish careers in the talk show world had problems dealing with the negative depictions of blacks. For them, the very idea of relegating racial pride to the back of the bus for the sake of ratings would have been considered an anathema. Of course, there were exceptions, like Darlene Hayes, a stalwart in the business from the Phil Donahue Show and executive producer from Montel Williams' show. But in the late 1980s to early 1990s, there were not many Negroes working in the television business as producers. You had to know someone just to get in the door. I made my debut into the business by accident, having bumped into a friend who had made a name for himself and who Hollywood noticed and built a talk show around. He told me if I could get to Hollywood, a job would be waiting for me. It's not like I had any experience in the television business. At the time, I was an artist, working as a sculptor with my own gallery, spending my days chilling with other artists. We would sit around discussing topics such as religion, politics, and relationships, as well as preparing and eating some really great food. Then we would smoke a little pot, invite some girls over, and get busy, if you know what I mean. But the idea of going to Hollywood and being involved in such an endeavor was intriguing, so I bought a ticket to Los Angeles and closed up the gallery. It was April 1991, and we had just moved to Beverly Hills to begin production at CBS Television City, home of The Price is Right, The Wheel of Fortune, and The Young and the Restless. I'll never forget my first lunch in the CBS commissary, and then seeing cast and crew of The Young and the Restless with lunch trays in hand, picking through the daily fare. I was literally standing 2 steps away from Nikki, Victor, Jack, Diane, and Ashley. I have to fess up that these people were part of my daily routine for years. I can't tell you how many times I had imagined myself in the role of Victor Newman or Jack Abbott with their vast TV fortunes making love to those TV women. It was a dream come true just to be in their collective presence. Next thing I heard, "Boy, that meatloaf sure looks great, doesn't it?" Turning, Eileen Davison, aka the lovely Ashley Abbott, was standing right beside me. Her beauty up close was startling. Every hair was in place, the makeup perfect, the body. And she had the most amazing almond-shaped eyes I'd ever seen, as well as a sincere, warm smile. My first job was that of a lowly production assistant at my friend's talk show called Talk About It. But I quickly convinced the executives I had what it takes to move up. Because of my connections with the host, I was given complete access to every phase of the television production business, learning techniques from some of the best directors, producers, and executives Hollywood had to offer in our field. After just 9 months, I became one of the highest paid producers in daytime talk. My daily ratings per show were second only to Oprah Winfrey episodes. I learned quickly that the secret to success was giving the public exactly what they wanted: sex, laughter, or conflict combined with out-of-control emotions and bizarre interpersonal relationship dramas. The same ingredients I had grown accustomed to watching daytime soaps. But we took it to a whole different level, which is exactly why shows like Sally, Geraldo, Jenny, Maury, and Montel came to rely upon the Ku Klux Klan and others of similar ideological ilk as their ratings bread and butter. Perhaps an argument could be made that those icons of the daytime talk actually performed a great service, because what the public learned about the KKK was that beyond the pointed hoods, white robes, hatred, and burning crosses were a bunch of imbeciles defending a way of life that had long passed them by. Giving those good old boys an opportunity to tell things from their perspective while being ridiculed by a studio audience dramatically diminished their ability to strike fear into the hearts of their intended prey. But the public was obviously fascinated, because each time a racist appeared on air, the national ratings would spike 3 to 6 points higher than average. Of course, everyone remembers the famous 1988 television brawl when Geraldo Rivera got his nose broken. His guests for that show: white supremacist John Metzger and civil rights activist Roy Innis. An explosive but highly entertaining mix. Thus, racist became the guest du jour, especially during sweep months when talk shows competed for ratings. Racist shows turned out to be just as popular as the big boob craze in the early 1990s, when producers were forced to scramble around locating as many big-breasted women as they could find to add sexual titillation to every discussion. Similarly, we were having meetings each day in which we would sit around brainstorming ideas about adding racist to every show, with titles like "I Married a Racist," "Your Mama is a Racist," "Children of Racist," and one of my favorites, "Interracial Dating." Which brings me to the topic at hand: learning to embrace your inner nigger, to illustrate the difficulties a Negro had trying to break into the business. The year was 1995, like I said, and I was executive producer of the Zim Zimmerman Show in Loving Life. It was an exciting whirl of chauffeur-driven limousines, the respect of peers, on-the-spot decision-making, multi-million-dollar budgets, a staff of 75 dedicated employees, and dining in some of the best restaurants Manhattan had to offer, like the Russian Tea Room and Chez Josephine's. I was full of myself, cocky and wild, but I delivered the goods, as they say in the business. The once anemic Zim Zimmerman ratings hit new highs under my command, the likes of which the studio bosses had never imagined. But times they were a-changing, and the cries of the Negro wanting a fair shake in the workplace couldn't be ignored, touching every business, ours included. One day I received an action memo from the studio head requesting due diligence in attempting to fill any new positions with a qualified Negro candidate, in spite of a recent failure we had in that department. Her name was Sharonda P. Brooks, and she came to me with a mighty fine resume, having worked for Oprah and Sally Jesse. During the interview, I specifically asked Sharonda if she would have a problem with the types of shows we produce. We were known for getting in the gutter to find the most outrageous guest we could. You see, the ideal talk show guest for daytime TV was either straight from the trailer park or right out of the ghetto, because neither had a clue about dignity, good taste, nor the compunction to rein their emotions in one bit. After speaking to several thousand such guests over the years, I had come to the conclusion that these people were a different species of human beings altogether. As a group, they demonstrated a shocking degree of low intelligence, scoffing at the very notion of schooling or having to know stuff. Combined with the emotional and psychological maturity of children, to even the most novice observer, they were a ticking time bomb set to explode. They survived nothing more, using instincts to pull them through a maze of relationship issues each day that usually ended in knockdown, drag-out fistfights or babies. With these folks, there was only one speed, and we knew how to push buttons when we needed an explosion.